One of the most common questions I get is how to use your American Express points to invest in the stock market. We're going to look at exactly this, the pros, the cons, and also a real life situation towards the end. One big favor before we dive into all of this is to give it a thumbs up, and if you like stuff like this, consider subscribing. So let's start off with the basics because I think that's pretty important. You need to have MR points, membership reward points, and not cash back. So cards like the Blue Cash Everyday earn cash back and they don't really work for this purpose. Number 2, you need to have the Schwab Platinum card in order to do this transfer. Note that if you just have a normal Platinum card, you cannot do this. You can also not just product change your Platinum normal one to the Schwab Platinum. You have to directly apply for it as a new card. So why bother with any of this? The main reason is because you can get 1.25 cents per point when you do this transfer directly into your Schwab brokerage, and it's also not taxable. This means that if you have, let's say, 100,000 points, that's going to equate to $1,250. If you compare this with redeeming your points directly onto your account, that's only 0.6 cents per point, so $600, which pales in comparison. Even if you redeem your points towards travel in normal circumstances, that's 1 cent per point, so $1,000, which is still pretty bad. American Express points only really make sense for either Schwab or to transfer out directly to partners to redeem for aspirational trips. And we'll run through an example with some concrete numbers towards the end of the video. If you guys want to come over here, we'll walk through the transfer. And this is actually the first time I'm transferring points over to Schwab. If you log into a non-Schwab Platinum card, then you're not going to see any prompts. You see your balance owed, you see your points, and then maybe some other promotional items. Below that, they'll happily tell you to transfer it out to Virgin Atlantic or another partner. Logging into my Platinum Schwab card, there is a prompt right below the points. Invest with rewards. Once you click into that, you see this whole landing page explaining what it is and the 4-step process. So only available for Schwab Platinum, and also minimum redemption is 1,000 points. Only the basic card member is eligible, so if you have an authorized user, they can't transfer to their own brokerage. Next step is going to be entering your card information. After that, you need to select how many points you want to transfer, and it starts with 1,000. So you can do 1, you can do 2, you can also do another mix, let's say 100,000 and 1 in order to make it work. For the purpose of this, I'm just going to do a 1,000 point transfer, so $12.50. If you have multiple brokerages with Schwab, then you would need to select the one that you want. You have selected that you're going to transfer 1,000 points and total funds will be $12.50 to your Schwab account. Your redemption has been received and is being processed. Thank you for redeeming your points. Should see a deposit in 4 to 6 business days. If you have not received a deposit, then call this number, and here is the confirmation. Logging into my Schwab account, we can see that it actually showed up right away. And this is 4 a.m. before the market opens. One other thing you can do is to log into your American Express account while you're on Schwab, but it doesn't really do anything other than show the balance, so not really gonna bother with it. If you want to start investing but you don't want to use Schwab, I'd recommend looking into Webull. I feel like Webull does lean more towards advanced users just because there's a lot of features there and it's really easy to get overwhelmed, but there's also a lot of education tools. Especially for people looking to get into options trading, Thinkorswim along with Webull are the two that I recommend. The benefit of Webull though, and a lot of the newer ones, is that they oftentimes have sign-up bonuses similar to credit cards and bank accounts. I'll put a Webull referral link down below, and thank you guys for the support. Also, for anyone watching in January 2021, on the other channel we walked through a bunch of companies that have the potential to be the next GameStop given the crazy market that we're in. Don't worry, it's mostly for fun, but I think it's a pretty good exercise. If you want to check that out too, I'll put a link down below. So the big question is whether it makes sense to do this transfer over to Schwab or whether you should use those points for travel. I probably spent an hour thinking about this and a bunch of different parameters, and I think it falls into a grid system. It really depends on what your risk tolerance is and also how you want to travel. If you're looking for low risk and also economic trips, then I think it does make sense to cash these points out. The main reason, and we'll walk through this example towards the end, is that the points make a lot of sense if you want to do YOLO trips. So given this, you might as well just transfer your points out to your brokerage and then invest it in VT, VTI, SPY, any other long-term thing. In the same vein, if you have high risk tolerance and also you're not looking to do anything crazy in terms of travel, it makes sense to do that transfer and then invest in maybe something riskier. Maybe you're doing weeklies or you're doing leaps, whatever works for you, I think that's fine. The rationale is that if your travel is around Airbnbs and driving and economic stuff, then those points don't really add as much value. I would also consider a different setup that might be more advantageous for normal travel. If you have a low risk tolerance and you also want to do aspirational trips, then it makes sense to keep those points. The points would help you unlock experiences that wouldn't be achievable normally. So yes, you can invest in dividend stocks, but in order to pay for those trips, it's going to be almost impossible. For the last one, if you're looking to do aspirational trips and you also have a very high risk tolerance, then I think it really depends. If you have money elsewhere, then I'd probably use that first before diving into this amount, just because you know that there's value here. With a lot of these YOLO trades, it can either be 0x, 5x, or 10x, so a pretty big range. If you don't have the money elsewhere, or if it's locked up in a different vehicle that you don't really want to touch, then it might make sense to liquidate some of these points for this purpose. For this square, I think either one makes sense, it just really depends on you. Let's finish off with an example just to make things easier to understand and just to quantify everything. If you have 1.2 million points, if you transfer that out to Schwab, that's $15,000 in your brokerage. If you're doing YOLO trading, $15,000 can end up being $0 or $150,000. At the same time, you could redeem those points for an aspirational trip. We're going to cherry pick one because I think it makes things easier to understand, but obviously there's a lot of choices. You can transfer 120k MR points into 120k Virgin Atlantic in order to book ANA first class from JFK to Tokyo round trip. I don't think I'd recommend this, but technically you could do 10 round trip flights for those 1.2 million points. If you want to get pedantic and account for taxes, let's say you can only do 8 of these round trip flights. So what is the retail price of this? If you look online, it's about $20,000. 21,000 times 10 is going to be $210,000 in value. Even if you times it by 8, that's still a lot of money. The big thing you need to figure out for yourself is how many points do you have, and also whether you care about stuff like this. If you don't care, then I think it's a pretty easy decision. Transfer your points out and invest it. If you do care, then how many points do you have? If you have 1.2 million points, then you probably can transfer some of it out to invest and then keep some of it in order to do those flights. If you only have 100,000 or 200,000 points though, it becomes a pretty tough decision. Do you take the flight, which is more of a known value, or do you try to trade your way to success? I think either one is fine, and it just really depends on you. Let me know down below what you're doing yourself and also how you think about all of this. If you liked it, give it a thumbs up, it really helps us out. If you know anyone else who'd benefit, share this with them, it'll probably help them out. But otherwise, hope you guys liked it. See you guys next time.